The episode opens with an announcement on a ferry, informing passengers that they will soon be arriving at Shirojima fishing port and advising them to remain seated due to potential strong impacts during docking. 16-year-old below-average boy Takahara Hairi is among the passengers. He reflects inwardly, comparing himself to a wounded bird. An old woman overhears his musings and asks how he's wounded. Hairi realizes he spoke his thoughts aloud and admits that his heart is broken. The woman acknowledges his words, prompting Hairi to look back at the sea. Much like Ash gazing at the legendary Pokemon Ho-Oh, Hairi spots an otherworldly, translucent butterfly gliding through the air, leaving glitter in its wake before vanishing, revealing one of our heroines, Shiroha Naruse. Soon after, Hairi disembarks and begins exploring the port town. He approaches a traditional Japanese house and calls out for the caretaker. A young woman, Misaki Kyoko, appears and apologizes for not meeting him at the port as planned. She introduces herself and explains that she has been looking after the house since Hairi's grandmother passed away, noting that they are distant relatives. Hairi introduces himself and says he'll be under her care during summer vacation. Kyoko leads him to his room, again apologizing for its dusty condition. She explains that although she had cleaned it, the room had been used for storage for a long time. Hairi reassures her, saying the room's atmosphere suits his current mood. Once more, he refers to himself as a wounded migratory bird, though again, he accidentally speaks aloud. Kyoko hears him and, sensing his self-pitying tone, asks if he said something. Hairi brushes it off. Kyoko then mentions that another relative, a girl, is also staying at the house. She adds that the girl is often out and not currently home, but promises to introduce them later. As Hairi settles in, a flashback reveals how he came to be there. A letter from his aunt, Kyoko, had arrived shortly before summer break, inviting him to Torishirojima. His grandmother, described as eccentric, had passed away the previous month. An avid traveler, she had filled the storehouse with curiosities from around the world, many of which held sentimental family value. Rather than disposing of everything, the family decided to send someone with free time to sort through it all. That person was Hairi, who notes that until the previous year he hadn't had a single day off. Later, during the evening news, a high-pressure system is forecasted. Kyoko asks if Hairi has managed to rest. Somewhat apologetically, Hairi admits he has just arrived and hopes he isn't a burden, but mentions that he is hungry. For dinner, Kyoko serves instant sanuki udon from a box full of instant ramen. Hairi notes internally that it's an unusual first meal on a new island, but politely tells her he doesn't mind. Kyoko, in her usual soft tone, apologizes for not being able to cook a proper meal, giving off the impression that while she's kind, she might be a bit lazy and not particularly skilled in the kitchen. She offers to let him borrow her scooter to find a better meal at a local diner. At the diner, Hairi examines the menu with great concentration and eventually orders a happy set from the middle-aged man behind the counter. The man, treating the order with solemn respect, soon brings out a bowl of oyakodon, chicken and egg over rice. Hairi, confused, says he thought he ordered a happy set. The owner explains that since oyako means parent and child together, it is indeed a happy meal. After finishing, Hairi takes a leisurely bike ride around the island before heading back. As night falls, Hairi becomes lost on unfamiliar roads and ends up near the local elementary school. He hears splashing from the pool and discovers a girl submerged underwater, holding her breath. He calls out. The girl turns and stares at him. After a long silence, she asks who he is. He introduces himself as Takahara Hairi and asks for her name. After hesitating, she replies, Shiroha. He then asks what she's doing there. Shiroha retorts that she should be the one asking him that question. Hairi explains that he's lost and trying to find Kato-san's house. Shiroha corrects him, saying it should be his house, and mistakenly calls him Sakaki Bara. Hairi tries to clarify, but she insists on the name, and he eventually gives up. Shiroha then tells him he should leave. Hairi realizes she's uncomfortable and sees why. She's been swimming in her bra and panties rather than a swimsuit. As he turns to leave, she softly whispers directions to help him find his way back. Hairi thanks her and asks why she's practicing swimming so late, warning her it could be dangerous if she got a cramp while alone. Shiroha, clearly embarrassed and angry, yells, "Dosukoi!" at him. Hairi doesn't understand, but recognizes he's upset her and walks away. Back at Kyoko's house, a baseball game plays on the TV as she eats instant ramen. She welcomes Hairi back and asks how he found the diner. He says it was better than he expected. He then brings up the word dosukoi and asks what it means. Kyoko pauses, then explains it's a local expression that roughly means someone is being annoying or persistent. Hairi recalls Shiroha yelling the word at him and imagines her telling him to stay out of her business, clearly upset at the idea that she might think he's a nuisance. The next morning, Hairi is awakened by a girl calling out to him. It takes several attempts, but he eventually wakes up. She informs him that it's already 8 a.m. She introduces herself as Umei. Hairi, realizing this must be the relative Kyoko mentioned, introduces himself as Takahara Hairi. They exchange polite greetings. Umei proudly presents breakfast, fried rice. Hairi questions having such a meal for breakfast. The girl pouts cutely, but Hairi quickly praises her cooking skills. Umei modestly accepts the compliment, saying it's nothing special. Hairi agrees a bit too bluntly, making her mad again. He tries a bite and praises her again, this time genuinely appreciating the feeling of someone cooking for him. Later, Hairi and Umei engage in a game of rock, paper, scissors to decide who does chores on which days. Umei keeps losing and, frustrated, accuses Hairi of cheating. Hairi questions how anyone could cheat at such a simple game. Umei insists that losing so many times in a row is unnatural, convinced it proves she has the worst luck, basically making her the housemaid for the entire summer. Hairi then offers to teach her his secret. Umei misinterprets this and exclaims that he was cheating after all. Hairi denies it, explaining that her intentions are transparent. Her facial expressions give away her choices. She makes a rock face when she plans to throw rock and a scissors face for scissors, making her moves completely predictable. Umei ponders this and comes up with a strategy. If she makes a paper face but throws rock, she should win. Hairi's sweat drops as she openly talks through her plan. She tries it, announcing her paper face, but playing rock. Hairi presumably wins again. Umei then wonders if making a rock face and playing rock would work. She shakes her fist in comic frustration and, in a sudden breakthrough, adopts a completely blank, expressionless face. This time she wins. Umei erupts in joyous celebration, shouting that she finally won. Shortly after her triumph, Umei announces that she's going out, looking like she's heading to school. Hairi bids her farewell. Kyoko then tells him to relax for a while and that she'll ask for his help organizing the storehouse later. She encourages him to enjoy his time on the island, smiling as she hints he might even meet a future lover. Hairi questions her cryptic words, but in the next scene, he stumbles upon a girl sleeping soundly near the beach. He marvels at how deeply she's sleeping, musing that country folk are really laid back and maybe a little too trusting. Then he notices her small furry companion and assumes it's a dog, even though it looks more like a Pokemon. As he stares at her, unsure of what to do, she loses her balance against the tree and begins to fall. Hairi instinctively reaches out and catches her, brushing against her soft body. The commotion wakes her. Hairi, flustered, mutters a "good morning." The girl blinks at him, then suddenly screams and punches him in the face, firing off rapid questions. Who are you? Let me go. Then she suddenly calms down and asks, "Are you planning to have your way with me?" She shyly looks away, adding, "At least go slow at first." Hairi, flustered and clearly not thinking, asks if that means he can go faster later, more aggressively. The girl snaps back to her senses and shouts, "No," then shoves him off her. After the chaotic encounter, the two get better acquainted. The girl comments that his name sounds weird. Hairi retorts that she should take it up with his parents. When she hears why he's on the island, she suddenly tenses. Hairi notices her guarded expression and pleads with her not to be so suspicious, admitting that his mental resilience isn't all that strong. She scoffs and says she has every right to be cautious. After all, in her eyes, he attacked her in her sleep. Hairi once again denies this. She tells him to just leave her alone if he finds her sleeping in the future. Suddenly, she checks the time, exclaims that it's already 2 p.m., and says she's going to be late for her part-time job. She calls out to Inari, her strange pet, and the two run off, leaving Hairi wondering how she even knew what time it was. Later, Hairi stands alone on the pier, trying to be an overly introspective teenager. He reflects that the vast ocean has a way of absorbing your worries, only to be hit in the face by a large wave. He's forced to ride home shirtless, leaving his clothes out to dry. On his way back, he runs into a young man, also shirtless, wearing only jean shorts. The guy has his hair covering his eyes and warns Hairi that it's dangerous to walk around shirtless. Hairi is confused since the other guy is dressed the same way. Before he can respond, he feels something graze his cheek. The young man mutters that she's still shooting. Suddenly, a voice blasts over a loudspeaker from a lifeguard post. It's a young girl yelling, "You're not allowed to be undressed outside the swimming area." She demands they get dressed immediately and turn themselves in. Hairi is utterly confused. The other guy grimly announces it's a shirtless hunt and tells Hairi to run for his life. Just then, a water gun fires from sniper distance, shockingly accurate and impossibly intense. Hairi escapes, but his shirtless comrade isn't so lucky. Back at Kyoko's house, Umei goes to greet Hairi, only to scream at the sight of his half-naked state. Flustered, she asks why he's like this, wondering if nudity is part of some strange island culture. She remarks she saw a guy like that yesterday. Hairi realizes what she saw was part of the infamous naked hunt. Umei then remembers a package arrived for Hairi from his family home. He opens it to find manga, his diary, a note, and a photo. It's a picture of a smiling Hairi on his school swim team. Umei, seeing the photo, asks if he was a member of the swim club. Hairi quickly denies it, then jokes that he was actually part of the Swim Trunks Club. Umei, taking him seriously, says no such club exists. Hairi, continuing the joke, tells her to ask Kyoko. Umei innocently calls out to Kyoko asking about it. Kyoko gives her a puzzled, almost concerned look in response to the bizarre question. But when she turns back around, Hairi is gone. Meanwhile, Hairi finds himself at the school swimming pool. Shiroha is there, practicing her swimming again. Hairi observes her form and feels a strange nostalgia. She asks if he got lost again. Hairi nervously denies it. She raises an eyebrow and asks why he's here. Then, without warning, he gives her a tip on how to improve her swimming form. Then, before she can respond, he awkwardly runs off back home. Shiroha blinks, finds it weird, but shrugs, and resumes practicing. The second episode starts with Umei eating her fried rice meal. The door opens and a man comes home from work. Umei greets him with a Japanese welcome home greeting, but the man just walks past her, not eating her dinner or acknowledging her. The identical scene takes place on the island, but here Hairi eats her dinner and smiles at her, telling her it's great. Kyoko Kato informs Hairi to go out and play instead of cleaning the storeroom today. Later, he rides her scooter, taking another lap around the town. On the way, as he passes by, another heroine in the story who drags her suitcase on the highway. She looks back at the protagonist, foreshadowing a future encounter. Soon, Hairi makes it to the docks, where he sees a familiar face being Shiroha. As the two recognize each other, Hairi jumps and tries to leave. Noticing his hesitation, she calls out to him to stop. She then embarrassingly tries to thank him for his tip he gave her last night, as she tried his swimming tip and noticed a small improvement in her speed. She soon leaves, having finished her business. Later, Hairi goes to pray at a shrine. Afterwards, finds himself walking along a path, this place being at a lighthouse. His attention is drawn to another strange girl who sits on the edge of the lighthouse. Hairi calls out to her, asking what she is doing in such a place. The girl turns and replies that she is searching for something. When Hairi inquires what she is looking for, she states that she is looking for herself and also for something she wants to do. Hairi, concerned, tells her that he thinks her position is dangerous. The girl, still sitting, asserts that she is not in danger. She elaborates with a peculiar certainty, explaining that even if she were to fall and perhaps die, she would not actually die. Hairi questions if she is invincible, and she confirms she is invincible. Hairi can only express a sense of envy at her conviction. Just then, an island-wide announcement crackles through the air, requesting Takahara Hairi, who has been staying on the island since the day before yesterday, to come to the local government office. Following the announcement, Hairi makes his way to the designated location. He is soon confronted by a spirited schoolgirl who scolds him for being late. He then refers to her as the shirtless and hunter, which the girl immediately tells him to stop using. The girl introduces herself properly as Nomura Miki, then proudly shows off a large, impressive water gun, identifying it as the Hydro Gladiator II. Hairi, somewhat nostalgically, mentions that he too once held the moniker of Water Soldier in his youth. Miki dismisses his old nickname as embarrassing. At this moment, another young man arrives, introducing himself as Mitani, but Miki interrupts his introduction to shoot him as he took his jacket off. Nomura then informs Hairi that there is a gathering planned for that evening. When Hairi looks puzzled, she clarifies that it is a welcome party for him. Hairi expresses his surprise, explaining that he is merely on the island for the summer. But Ryoichi encourages him not to be reserved, explaining that Torishirojima Island is known for its warmth towards guests. Nomura further elaborates that tourists, and it is a local custom to welcome them generously. Ryoichi then brings up another individual, asking about the whereabouts of someone named Tenzin. Nomura speculates that Tenzin is likely secluded in the mountains. Nomura asks Hairi if he would be willing to go and fetch Tenzin, as Hairi has not yet met him. Hairi accepts the task and makes his way to a shed in the mountains. He announces his presence as he enters, but finds the place seemingly empty. He calls out, asking if anyone is there. A booming voice suddenly responds, asking who he is. Tenzin is a glasses-wearing boy who does upside-down pull-ups, being a workout freak. After an explanation, the two athletic teens play a game of table tennis, with Hairi having a slight upper hand. But just like Rock Lee in the Chunin exams, Tenzin takes of his training weights, with him now ready to really begin, but he's stopped as Nomura is there to bring them to the party. Later that evening, the welcome party is underway. Hairi finds himself among the island's youth. A girl with distinctive light blue hair introduces herself as Sorakato Ao, suggesting he can just call her Ao, and expresses her hope that they will get along. Hairi politely reciprocates, but soon the two recognize each other, with the girl getting his name wrong as well. Ao then informs him that they all know each other because they're the executives of the youth club. But Tenzin cuts in that there aren't exactly many people around their age on the island. That's when Hairi asked about Shiroha. The others are confused by the name, but then recall the girl being named Naruse. Ao expresses surprise that Hairi referred to her by her first name, as Shiroha is her surname, wondering if they're on a first name basis. Ryoichi and Tenzin describes Shiroha as being unsociable and rather shy, and Ao cautions Hairi against teasing or bothering her. Her tone becomes slightly suspicious as she asks Hairi if something has already happened between him and Shiroha. Hairi quickly denies any such thing, stating that they only met briefly. He then asks if Shiroha will be attending the party. Ao confirms that she did extend an invitation to her. The next morning, Hairi is at the Kato residence. Umei, bright and early, greets him as she's leaving the house. She is heading out for radio exercise. Before leaving, she tells Hairi that she has prepared breakfast and kindly asks him to clean up the dishes after he has eaten. After Umei departs, Hairi remarks to himself about the oppressive heat of the summer day. Later, Hairi decides to visit a local dagashiya, or candy store, seeing an ad for shaved ice. Upon entering, he is greeted by an elderly woman. He decides to order a shaved ice to cool down. After he pays, he goes outside to sit on the bench. Noticing this, the granny offers to let him sit inside as she has an electric fan in the back. Hairi gratefully accepts her offer. He slides open the door to the Zashiki room, but in doing so, he accidentally gets a face full of butt as he walks in on Ao Sorakato in the middle of changing her clothes. The shock causes him to spill his freshly acquired shaved ice all over her butt. Afterwards, he's in the traditional Japanese formal bow seeking forgiveness. Ao, annoyed, sharply asks him what he thinks he is doing. Hairi, flustered, stammers that it was an accident. The girl doesn't buy it as he just so happens to open the door on a girl changing. Then throws shaved ice on her when he's caught. She still doesn't buy it as his actions were exaggerated. Hairi counters that he previously went to an all-boys school, so he's not used to seeing a girl, let alone in such a state. She nods her head to only explode at the response. Still, Hairi has to question why she's changing at a candy store, asking if it's a kind of fetish or something. Hearing this, she doesn't believe he's taking this seriously. She then informs him she works here. Her primary concern now is that her underwear, as it's now all wet and sticky, being rather uncomfortable. Hairi apologizes once more, genuinely. In a bid to make amends, he proposes that she should douse him with shaved ice as well, citing an eye for an eye principle from the Code of Hammurabi. Shizuku, initially taken aback, seems intrigued by his bizarre offer. A glint of mischief appears in her eyes as she agrees to his terms. She prepares a bowl of shaved ice ready to exact her chilly revenge. She gives him a moment to prepare, asking if he's ready. Hairi braces himself. She douses him and laughs at his reaction. Hairi, acting on reflex, throws his own remaining portion of shaved ice at her. Shizuku is incensed that he threw it back. Hairi tries to justify his action by saying it was colder than he had anticipated. This act ignites a full-blown shaved ice war, with her getting him right in the eye with a sticky surprise. Hairi doesn't let it slide, giving her a money shot. Meanwhile, Granny finds it all amusing, not caring to interfere. By the time it's over, Hairi is having to dry off all his clothes. Suddenly, Nomura, armed with her signature Hydro Gladiator, shoots at him. Adopting an authoritative tone, she informs Hairi that disrobing outside of designated public bathing areas is strictly prohibited and orders him to put on some clothes immediately. Hairi, startled by her sudden appearance and official demeanor, wonders where she's doing this from. Nomura, aiming her water gun, shoots him again, forcing him to put his shirt back on. Back at the Kato residence, Hairi enters, only to be greeted by Umei, who is visibly shocked to see him shirtless once again, exclaiming, "Why does he always come home naked?" Hairi attempts to explain the situation, mentioning that he and another person were throwing shaved ice at each other. Umei, understandably, is still baffling, but informs him to get in the hot bath she prepared. In the bath, he questions why he's here. Later, he meets up with his aunt to apologize for not being much help to her, but she doesn't mind it as it seems he's having fun with the other kids his age. As he goes out to leave, he remembers that he came here to escape his troubles back home. He goes to the beach to walk on the sand again to only see Shiroha. Hairi addresses her as Shiroha-san, prompting her to ask how he knows her name. He reminds her that they introduced themselves during their first meeting. Shiroha vaguely recalls the introduction, mixing up his name again to only have Hairi quickly correct her. Before Hairi then starts to ask about her something, but she stops him shyly, asking for him not to add the san. He then mentions that he had seen her on the pier from the deck of the ferry as he was arriving on the island. Shiroha looks surprised and thinks it's creepy he knew this. Hairi quickly clarifies that he had no particular intention in observing her. She was simply visible from the boat. He adds that he noticed she was staring intently at something. Shiroha reveals that she was watching a bird at that time as she was wondering what's past the sea. A moment of silence passes before Shiroha turns the question back to him, asking why he came to such an island. Hairi admits that he cannot quite remember. He thought he could finally articulate his feelings, but seems unable to. He explains he felt a feeling of drowning, of suffocating in the relentless flow of time back in the city. He confesses that he came to Torishirojima because he wanted to remember, specifically, how to spend a summer vacation. As normally, the best moments of summer are when you are a child with Shiroha calls him weird as she was informed from Grandma Kido, the woman on the boat, that he described himself as a bird with the two staring at the passing waves of the ocean. The episode commences early in the morning with a black-haired girl wearing skull hairpins, a choker, and heels, humming to herself while rolling her suitcase across the highway. She pauses to look at the ocean. Later, at the Kato residence, Umei and Hairi are partaking in a meal of crab-fried rice. As he eats, Hairi expresses how happy he is to have crab as the main ingredient. Umei, acknowledging his sentiment while affirming the dish's tastiness, explains that the crab was a generous, free gift from someone at the port. Hairi voices mild surprise that such a high-quality ingredient could be so easily acquired. Umei then cheerfully offers to include any other seafood he'd like next time. Later, Hairi heads to the shed to start working on his summer job, but Kyoko turns him down, saying she still has to get rid of some leftover trash. With nothing to do, he lies down in the shade. Umei then announces her departure for the day. She explains her plans to go bug catching with her friends from their secret base. Before leaving, Umei scolds Hairi for lounging around on such a splendid sunny day, saying it's a waste of his summer vacation. She enthusiastically suggests he should embark on an adventure. Hairi dismisses the idea, claiming he's past the age for such childish pursuits. Umei playfully interjects, proposing an adult adventure instead. Hairi's face momentarily contorts into a comically suggestive expression at the idea, imagining an adventure with well-figured women in bikinis. Umei immediately calls him out, asking if he's having dirty thoughts. Hairi denies any such thing. Umei quickly clarifies that she meant something more innocent, like investigating local legends, such as the master of the reservoir pond. The idea seems to pique Hairi's interest and he muses on the possibility. Later, while walking alone, Hairi finds himself contemplating Umei's suggestion about the reservoir pond. His thoughts are interrupted when he stumbles upon Shiroha Naruse by a quiet stream. She is intently focused on the flowing water, then raises her hand in a finger gun pose and shouts, "Radar!" Like an anime character from her favorite show, she moves from side to side, still shouting, "Radar!" Hairi feels secondhand embarrassment for her, not realizing she thinks she's alone. She then turns and locks eyes with Hairi. Not knowing what to do, Hairi pretends he's been shot and strikes a dramatic pose before slowly opening his eyes. Shiroha's face turns bright red and she screams in shame. She mutters the phrase, "Reigen Yachiko Nare." Hairi is confused by the phrase, so she repeats it, pointing at him with shaky hands. She explains that it's a jinx passed down in her family. Still embarrassed, she claims her earlier actions were part of a ritual to greet the Lord of the Rivers, insisting that everyone on the island does it, not wanting to be considered weird. To make her feel better, Hairi copies her movements and shouts the same phrase at the river, though she corrects his pronunciation. The two tire themselves out doing this for 10 straight minutes. Exhausted, Hairi asks if she's a manga fan or something. Shiroha's face heats up again, and flustered, she rounds on him, admits she likes manga, and storms away, saying she hates him. Continuing his walk and still mulling over the awkward interaction, Hairi hears a series of thudding sounds. Investigating the source, he discovers a young woman struggling with a large, somewhat antiquated suitcase stuck in a sewage drain. She looks up and thanks him. To Hairi's surprise, she addresses him by his full name, Hairi Takahara. When he questions how she knows him, she smiles and says he seems to be more well-known than he realizes. She then introduces herself as Kushima Kamome, reasoning that it would be weird if only she knew his name. Hairi repeats her family name, Kushima, and she quickly asks him not to use it, preferring just Kamome. Harry playfully remarks that hearing the name Kamome, which means seagull in Japanese, makes him want to cry like a sheep, me, referencing a common phonetic joke. Kamome corrects him, explaining that the me sound is actually characteristic of the black-tailed gull, umineko. Curious, Harry asks how a regular gull, a kamome, cries. Kamome responds with a peculiar squawking sound. Observing Harry's bewildered expression meant she implores him not to look at her like she's a strange creature. Harry apologizes, and Kamome, ever opportunistic, quickly asks if, as a token of his apology, he would grant her a request. Harry agrees to help Kamome with her suitcase. To his astonishment, she climbs atop it, clearly expecting him to push both her and the suitcase. He questions this arrangement, but she claims it's for ease and comfort, a more playful excuse than anything. Harry, sighing in resignation, accepts the task, muttering that she must think she's royalty or something. As he begins to push the considerable weight, he asks for directions. Kamome vaguely gestures ahead, indicating he should continue straight. Curious about the suitcase's weight, he asks what's inside. Kamome tells him to come closer, then playfully evades the question, sticking her tongue out in a classic gotcha gesture and laughing cheerfully. While Harry is engaged in the strenuous task of pushing Kamome and her suitcase, she hums a song cheerfully. Harry recognizes the melody as an old, somewhat nostalgic tune titled Median Sherlock. Shortly thereafter, Umei and her friend Nomura, who's holding a butterfly net, happen upon them. Umei calls out to Harry, her tone a mix of amusement and disbelief, as she observes the peculiar sight of him pushing a girl on a suitcase. Kamome, with a mischievous grin, asks Umei if she'd like a ride too. Umei, with a touch of adolescent pride, retorts that she's not a child. Then one of her friends chimes in, saying they saw a woman dressed in a kimono collapsed further up the road, apparently overcome by hunger. The group rushes off to check it out, with Umei chasing after them and remarking how there always seems to be a high concentration of weirdos on this island. Before Hairi and Kamome continue on their way, Umei issues a practical warning. There's a steep slope just ahead, and she advises them to be careful. Heeding Umei's warning, Hairi notes the approaching decline and insists Kamome get off the suitcase, deeming it too dangerous. Kamome, however, sees the slope as an opportunity for excitement. She enthusiastically declares her intent to ride the suitcase down the hill. Harry strongly objects, but his words fall on deaf ears. With a cry of, "It'll be fine," Kamome launches herself and the suitcase down the steep incline. For a moment, she appears to enjoy the thrilling ride. Meanwhile, the camera shifts to highlight just how dangerous her actions are. Sharp turns, the suitcase wobbling, and the risk of a catastrophic break. Her control doesn't last. The suitcase veers off course and crashes into a body of water, taking Kamome with it. Hairi panics. Afraid of the sea and haunted by a fear of drowning, he hesitates. But recalling his last swim meet, he steels himself, takes position, and dives in after her. Overwhelmed by his trauma, he loses consciousness. He is later saved by Kamome, and the two rest on her floating suitcase. She asks why he jumped in if he can't swim. Embarrassed, he doesn't answer, but she smiles and thanks him anyway, already knowing. His attention is then drawn to one of the stickers on her suitcase, a stylized cat with a prominent mustache. She identifies it as the Higeneko-dan no Shinboru, symbol of the mustache cat gang. Upon seeing the image, Hairi experiences a faint, fleeting sense of familiarity, as if he has encountered it somewhere before. But before he can ponder it further, he's splashed with more water, courtesy of Kamome. She laughs at his reaction, saying the water is nice and cold. After they're done playing in the water, she comments on their soaked state. He agrees, and Kamome, ever optimistic, suggests that the warm, sunny weather will dry them off quickly. As he turns to talk to her, he's taken aback by her current appearance, finding her very attractive and questioning why she's doing all this with him still around. He ponders the wonders of the sky and sea, then playfully remarks about seeing her underwear, saying the blue of those things couldn't compare to the blue of her panties. As they begin to dry in the summer sun, Kamome shares a piece of her personal history. She reveals that this is not her first visit to the island. She had been there once before, a long time ago, when she was the same size as her suitcase. She explains that during that earlier visit, she participated in a special summer camp that brought together children from all over the country. Her current visit, she clarifies, is a journey to retrace and perhaps recapture some of those cherished childhood memories. She then turns the conversation to Harry, asking him about his reasons for coming to the island. Harry, perhaps influenced by Umei's earlier suggestion or his own latent desires, pauses to consider his answer. Kamome, seeing he's taking a long time to respond, vaguely guesses it must be the same as hers, to pursue adventure. He muses aloud, though he expresses skepticism about finding significant adventures on such a small island. Kamome responds with a knowing, enigmatic smile, hinting that the island might hold more excitement than he imagines. With an air of confidence, she grabs his hand and they head back to town. asserting that she knows exactly where they can find an adventure. Hairi, his curiosity piqued by her mysterious confidence, asks where she intends to lead him. En route to Kamome's promised adventure, Hairi catches sight of Shiroha slumped against a candy machine, almost hugging the poor thing. Remembering his earlier behavior by the stream, Hairi asks Kamome to wait for a moment while he checks on Shiroha. He approaches her, utterly frightening the girl. He just keeps popping up when she least expects it. She questions what he wants, and he offers a sincere apology for startling her earlier. He notices her gaze fixed on the store and asks if she wants to buy something. Hairi offers to buy her whatever she wants. Shiroha quietly makes her request, a popular brand of watermelon-flavored ice pop, giving him the money. Hairi enters the store to make the purchase but returns a moment later with a melon pop, to the girl's disappointment. He informs her that, unfortunately, the suikabo was sold out. Shiroha seems disinterested and just walks away. He tries to get her to take the ice pop or at least accept her money back, but the girl has lost all interest. Kamome walks over, teasing him for knowing such a cute girl and thinking there's more to their relationship. Hairi dismisses it and offers her the ice pop instead. Kamome is surprised but gladly accepts it. Later, the two go to the pool where Kamome doesn't hesitate for a moment before climbing the fence. Hairi questions it, saying it's dangerous and likely illegal, but she tells him it's fine. As she climbs, her dress is partly exposed, giving Hairi an eyeful. He tries to look away, but Kamome doesn't care about such things. After this, they climb a building, next seeing the old elementary school building. She convinces him to continue climbing, all the while he rolls her suitcase. Every time, Kamome assures him it'll be fine. Eventually, they break into the storage room via the window. Inside the attic is a dusty wooden-floored room. Once inside the dimly lit space, Kamome begins to search with an air of excited anticipation. It isn't long before she locates what she was seeking: a chest tightly locked up with chains, a diary, and a small, lovingly hand-stitched flag bearing the same distinctive hige neko, mustache cat, symbol they had seen earlier on her suitcase. She triumphantly declares that this is it, the beginning of the adventure. She elaborates, explaining that many years ago, at the conclusion of that memorable summer camp, she and her friends had climbed to this very spot. They planted the flag as a symbolic marker, a beacon for a future reunion. The flag, she clarifies, served as the emblem for their little team. Furthermore, she reveals that they had hidden a secret within the box, a time capsule. The diary speaks of it being 10 years since that summer camp. Hairi is intrigued by the chest and wants to open it. She bonks him on the head playfully, but Hairi jokingly asks what they found. What's the secret? Kamome momentarily loses her playful demeanor and becomes nostalgic. Instead of directly answering his question about the secret, Kamome leads Hairi to one of the room's windows. Gesturing toward the vista outside, she proclaims with deep satisfaction that the view from this particular spot is the best. Hairi gazes out at the sweeping panorama of the sea stretching to the horizon. As daylight begins to wane, Kamome expresses her gratitude to Hairi for his companionship throughout the day's escapades, asking if he had fun. Hairi readily acknowledges that he, too, had enjoyed himself. Kamome then makes a promise. Next time, she will take him on an even more special adventure. With a cheerful wave and a see you later, she departs, leaving Hairi to ponder her words and the intriguing prospect of future adventures. As he's done daydreaming about all the memories he had with the girl and her antics, he's brought to the present again, because she's still here. He questions why, and she simply tells him she's tired. Understanding her unspoken plea, Hairi sighs with good-natured resignation and agrees to push the suitcase for her once more. He asks Kamome for directions to her home. She instructs him to continue straight ahead. Hairi points out the obvious. Heading straight from their current location will lead them directly to the port. Kamome confirms this. When Hairi, slightly perplexed, asks if she is planning to board a ship, she responds with characteristic vagueness, saying it's something like that. His confusion mounting, Hairi asks if she isn't, in fact, going home. Kamome offers another enigmatic reply, stating that it's sort of like she's going home, and yet sort of not. Hairi questions why she always seems to answer in these weird riddles, but she brushes this off. She then changes the subject, asking where he's staying, with Hairi pointing out he's in the opposite direction. Kamome calls him a good guy. The two continue on their journey. The next episode begins with a flashback to a summer cabin by the lake, where a young Kamome and Hairi are looking at a map of the island together. The two apparently knew each other as children. Kamome explains her desire to visit a specific bus stop marked on the map, hinting at the existence of treasure. Hairi expresses disbelief, questioning the likelihood of such a find. Kamome clarifies that her intention is to verify its existence and asks for his help. When Hairi inquires why he was chosen, Kamome says he looks athletic enough and seems like he can handle dangerous situations. Harry modestly suggests there are more capable individuals. Kamome pauses but childishly asks, "Then who?" Ready to add them? At that moment, a girl dramatically descends from the roof, announcing herself as Tsubame and claiming to be a ninja, much to Kamome's surprise. She asks where Tsubame came from, and Hairi agrees she's a ninja. Shortly after, a boy in an overly long lab coat appears, introducing himself as Hayato, the class president. He voices concern that the group might be planning something ill-advised, so he must join to keep them safe. Lastly, a shy girl named Suzume-chan joins them. With that, the kids agree to go on this adventure together. In the present, Kamome is waiting in the shade, sitting on her suitcase and reading a book. Soon, Hairi arrives, much to Kamome's happiness. She grabs his arm and bounces around excitedly, distracting Hairi. Kamome then presents Hairi with the same old, ornate box secured with multiple locks that they had hidden at school. She explains that her group discovered an island secret 10 years ago and concealed it within this box, with each member responsible for a key. Hairi observes the 4 keyholes. Kamome clarifies that their group consisted of 5 members. However, as the leader, her role was to hold the map and a memo containing clues, rather than one of the keys. Hairi jests about her self-proclaimed leadership, not seeing her as the type, but Kamome confidently asserts she was indeed the leader of a proper team. When she asks what he sees her as, he comments, "A happy dog or something that gets distracted easily." Kamome takes offense and makes a noise. Hairi remarks it sounds more like a sheep. Kamome says she's angry at him and insists she'd be a great leader. Back on topic, Hairi asks what's inside the box. Kamome teases him again by refusing to tell, and he falls for it again. She outlines their current objective, to gather the 4 missing keys by deciphering the hints on her memo, which will allow them to open the box and uncover the island's secret. Hairi, ever practical, points out that a decade has passed. He's skeptical the keys would remain undisturbed or even accessible. Take the first clue, for example. It supposedly points to the literal bottom of the ocean. That key could be long gone. Kamome remains optimistic, but considers her group's capabilities and decides to visit the elementary school's swimming pool, unable to find a key there. Their first task is to decode the clue, where the sea god protects the seabed. Hairi initially interprets kaite as the ocean floor, but then considers that it might mean something that protects the sea, like a lighthouse, since lighthouses guide ships through the night. They proceed to the lighthouse, where they encountered Tsumugi diligently picking up litter. Hairi introduces the 2 of them, but gets Kamome's last name wrong. She pokes him for the mistake and introduces herself. Tsumugi introduces herself, and Kamome notices she's cleaning up litter. She rolls up her sleeves to help, and Tsumugi gladly accepts. They ask Tsumugi if she's seen any keys, but she hasn't. Hairi continues to ponder the riddle, considering that the seabed near the lighthouse would be too difficult to search. The 2 stop at a diner for a bite to eat and continue thinking about the clue. Out of nowhere, Kamome gets on the table and starts flailing her arms and making monster noises. Hairi guesses she's trying to act like a kaijin, which might refer to a monster from a children's superhero show. A new idea strikes him, and he asks the owner if he has a Japanese dictionary. The owner doesn't mind and brings one over. The group heads to the island shrine. True to Hairi's deduction, Kamome discovers the first key hidden beneath a loose stone on the shrine's steps. She expresses surprise, wondering how he solved it. He explains that, upon consulting the dictionary, he had an epiphany about the word kaite. While it usually means seabed, it could be a pun for kaidan, meaning stone steps. Thus, kaijin ga shugosuru kaite ni translates to the stone steps of a shrine where a sea-protecting god is enshrined, meaning the shrine stairs. As the day concludes, Kamome can't thank him enough for coming along with her. The 2 arrive at the port by the boats. There, Kamome asks if they can continue the search tomorrow. Hairi doesn't promise they can. Kamome tells him she doesn't mind if it's tomorrow, or the day after that, or the day after that, remarking that she'll always be here. As her boat arrives, she tells him to come help her out again whenever he feels like it. Hairi is surprised, but agrees to meet her for another adventure tomorrow. The next scene shows the 2 of them hurriedly running out of a place with multiple dogs barking and chasing after them. After catching their breath, Kamome reads the second riddle. The guard dog sleeps by the gateway to the next life. So this would need to be a dog that's been around for over a decade. With her not knowing how many dogs an island like this has, it's hard to narrow it down. As Hairi thinks this over, he notices a smoky chimney. Following it leads them to the crematorium. He then realizes the true meaning. The entrance to the underworld likely refers to the island's crematorium, often guarded by dog statues. Kamome pets the old dog and reaches into his doghouse, pulling out the next key. Their next challenge is the riddle: the desert where basilisks gather. Kamome identifies a basilisk as a mythological bird-like monster. Harry interprets teeming with birds in a desert, perhaps a misdirection for an open, dusty area, as a reference to a chicken coop. He asks Kyoko if she knows a place around here that keeps a large number of chickens. The woman directs them to the Naruse residence, which has a big shed full of them. Kamome questions who this girl is, and Harry explains that she was the one in front of the snack shop. Kamome then nudges his arm, teasingly asking if they're close enough for him to just drop by her house, unannounced. Instead of blushing, he plays along with the teasing, acting suave, prompting Kamome to call him a player. Upon arriving at the Naruse home, Hairi calls out for someone to let them in, as there's no doorbell. They are soon met by a large, bulky, elderly man, Shiroha's grandfather. He's an intimidating presence. Hairi, slightly nervous, introduces himself. The man quickly remarks that he doesn't know him. Hairi tries to bring up Shiroha, which causes the man's eyes to dilate at the mention of her name, clearly thrown by Hairi being on a first-name basis. Now he wants to know exactly who this boy is. Kamome, sensing the tension, tries to step in and says they come as friends. After a long, tense silence, the man simply slams the door in their faces, calling them outsiders and denying any further searching. While they're musing about what to do next, they see a girl in a school uniform go by. Kamome speculates that if they had school uniforms, they might seem more trustworthy and not like outsiders. Cut to the next scene. Ao looks utterly uncomfortable. It's made clear why. Hairi has asked to borrow her school uniform. She's too shocked to respond at first, but after a few more repetitions, she jumps, calling him a deviant and completely flustered by his bold and very suspicious behavior. Hairi quickly says it's for his friend who would love to wear one. Somehow, this works. Now Kamome is cosplaying as a schoolgirl. As Hairi looks her over, he can't help but mutter how tight it looks on her, getting a nosebleed. Kamome oblivious to his thoughts. Back at the Naruse house, the grandfather remains suspicious, but after seeing the school uniform, he relents. I don't get the logic either, but hey, anime. He calls for Shiroha, who comes to the door to ask why Hairi is there and who the girl is. After introductions, they all head to the chicken coop. Hairi spots a loose piece of dry wood. Looking underneath it, he uncovers a copy of Weekly Young Boy magazine. I had no idea old people were fans of Young Boy. Shiroha isn't even shocked and asks if they came just to look for that. Hairi denies it and keeps searching. After finding 2 copies of the magazine, they finally find the key. Shiroha, observing all this, asks about the key's purpose. Kamome explains it's one of several needed to open a treasure box containing an island's secret. Shiroha expresses some interest, and Kamome, true to her impulsive nature, invites her to join the quest. Shiroha, seeing her excitement, says no, seemingly uninterested, and the two leave. Later, Hairi remarks to Kamome that he can understand why she was the leader of a group of kids. Kamome blushes, rubbing her hair from the unexpected praise. Hairi believes it's because she's weirdly assertive about certain things. This prompts Kamome to reflect on her past. She confesses that 10 years ago, she was a shy child who desperately wanted to make friends. Her concerned friends encouraged her to join a summer camp on the island. Initially, she struggled to connect with other children, watching as groups formed day by day, leaving her lonely. One day, she discovered a map in her father's study. He was a scholar researching the island's history. The map was carefully stored and had a red X marking a spot, with a simple note, treasure. The location, however, was remote and would require crossing mountains, a journey adults would likely forbid. Determined, she decided to approach the most capable-looking boy at the camp, Taka, who was athletic, albeit a little intimidating to talk to, given she was shy with strangers. Subsequently, others known by their camp nicknames, Tsubame, Hayato, and Suzume, joined, forming their group of 5. Hairi notes that this all sounds familiar. Kamome acknowledges that Hairi, too, seems to have experienced his share of adventures. The next day, they tackle the final riddle, the castle in the sky where the sea eagles live. Hairi and Kamome are shown at a birdhouse. Inside is the final key. They briefly celebrate finding all of them. Kamome is then startled by a bird, loses her grip, and crashes to the ground. Hairi awakens, all bandaged up, to find Kamome in his room, unexpectedly dressed in a cute maid's uniform with flares and twin-tailed pigtails. Hairi is confused why she's there and even more confused by the strange cosplay. Kamome, feeling bad since the treasure hunt was her idea, decided to treat him and wait by his side. While thankful for the thought, Hairi has to question the cosplay. Kamome shyly explains that after he told his aunt she'd be helping around the house for a while, she kinda dressed her up. Doing a little spin, she asks how he likes it. Hairi can't help but blush, with his Aunt Kyoko interrupting to ask if it suits her. Hairi looks away but softly admits it does. Kamome is happy to hear this and goes on to clean the house, even talking to the local fisherman for a deal on fish. Then she returns home to do laundry. Umei has to ask if he just acquired a wife, and Hairi is unsure. Later, in the bath, Kamome barges in to ask if she can scrub his back. Care extends to bath time. Hairi is extremely embarrassed and initially resistant. Kamome, seemingly oblivious to his discomfort, casually asks if he isn't wearing a towel. He isn't. His face heats up as she actually becomes embarrassed too. Still, she wishes to continue since she's come this far. He puts on a towel and she is met with his broad back, which makes her feel self-conscious. Ultimately, however, she finds herself unable to go through with it and politely declines. That night, after acquiring all the necessary Chaos Emeralds and animal sacrifices, they are able to open the treasure box. Kamome expresses her sincere gratitude to Hairi, admitting she had doubts about their ability to find all the keys. Crying tears of joy, she moves Hairi emotionally as well. He's happy for her. Still, he's curious about what the treasure was. She then opens the paper to reveal a map with the X marking a ship. Kamome insists this is no ordinary vessel. Hairi, anticipating her usual teasing, says he won't fall for it. Kamome doesn't know what he's talking about. Hairi expects her to withhold the details, but Kamome surprises him by offering to tell him the full story. Shocked by this, Hairi is greatly interested in hearing it. She clears her throat and recounts how 10 years ago her group followed the original map, undertaking a long and arduous journey over mountains and through caves to a remote part of the island. There, they made an astonishing discovery: a genuine pirate ship, complete with a skull and crossbones emblem, resembling a vessel from European tales. This is why she has skull and pirate-themed items on her. Hairi is incredulous, but Kamome firmly insists it's true. She explains that they were forced to leave the site quickly because summer camp concluded the very next day, scattering the members of the Higaneko Dan. Hairi inquires if the ship might still be there. Kamome believes it must be, as on that day, they made a solemn promise to reunite 10 years later to find the ship again. She reveals that her current visit to the island is the fulfillment of that decade-old vow. Now, with the keys recovered and the map in her possession, Kamome resolutely declares her intention to journey once more to the location of the pirate ship.